The cold hum of the outer docking bay echoed through the empty corridors of Station K-47. The lights flickered intermittently, casting long shadows over walls scarred by time and neglect. In this forgotten corner of the Xylan Dominion, life was cheap, and survival was the only law that mattered. Among the debris and the distant hum of passing ships, a small figure moved cautiously, keeping to the shadows, her eyes alert for any sign of danger. Her name was Lyra, and she was considered nothing by those around her. For as long as she could remember, Lyra had been ignored, pushed aside, and treated like she did not exist. The Xylan, her own people, had long ago decided that she was a burden. She was too small, too fragile, and too quiet to be of use. The elder guards who watched over the station made sure she stayed out of their way. They left her to scavenge for scraps, trusting that her small size would keep her from wandering too far into danger, yet never offering her protection or guidance. Hunger was a constant companion, and the cold of the station's unheated sections gnawed at her bones. Still, she survived. Lyra had learned to move without being noticed. She slipped through narrow maintenance tunnels, avoiding patrol drones that scanned the station for unauthorized activity. She had no friends, no allies, and no one to care if she lived or died. Each day was a test of endurance. Each night, she curled herself into a tight ball in some abandoned storage room, listening to the distant echoes of laughter and voices that never included her. She had long stopped expecting kindness. It was easier that way. Easier to survive when you expected nothing. One day, while scavenging near the docking bay, Lyra noticed a ship unlike any other she had seen. It was a human ship, small and worn, but with an unmistakable hum of life. Humans were rare in this sector, and even rarer to be seen so close to the Xylan colonies. Lyra froze, crouching behind a stack of cargo crates. The ship's door hissed open, and a man stepped out. He moved with purpose, but his eyes scanned the area, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. Lyra had never seen anyone look at the world the way humans did. They seemed to notice things others ignored. The man carried supplies, placing them carefully on a nearby platform. He did not glance at the patrol drones or the guards that watched from a distance. His attention seemed almost kind. Lyra's stomach growled as she watched him move. She had gone 3 days without food, and the scraps she had found were barely enough to keep her alive. Hunger had become a dull ache in her belly, one she had learned to ignore. But now, watching the human, she felt something she had not felt in a long time: hope. The man paused and looked around as if sensing something. His gaze fell on her. Lyra stiffened, pressing herself against the crates. She had been spotted before, and it had never ended well. The Xylan had no patience for weakness, but this man did not look angry or annoyed. He looked curious, and then he smiled, a simple, genuine smile, and said, "Hey there, are you hungry?" Nobody had ever spoken to her as if she mattered. She wanted to run, to hide, to pretend she did not exist, but her body betrayed her. Her stomach growled loudly. The human laughed softly and moved closer, placing a small packet of rations on the ground near her hiding spot. Lyra's eyes widened. The smell of the food was foreign and tantalizing. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. She crawled forward, trembling, and picked up the rations. The human knelt down a safe distance away, giving her space. "Go on," he said gently. "Eat." When she had finished, she looked up at him, unsure what to say. She had no words for someone treating her like she mattered. The man extended a hand. "I'm Captain Elias," he said. "I travel the stars, helping those who need it. You can come with me if you want. No one will chase you. No one will hurt you." It had been a long time since she had felt safe, and the thought of leaving the only place she had ever known terrified her. But the station was a dangerous place. The guards were growing more aggressive, the patrol drones more frequent. Hunger and cold were constant threats. And yet the human's presence offered a promise she could not ignore, a chance at survival, a chance to be something more than nothing. Days passed, and Lyra observed the human from a distance. Elias repaired the ship, unloaded supplies, and occasionally spoke to the few traders who came and went. She noticed the way he moved, the care he took in his work, and the quiet confidence in his actions. He was unlike any being she had ever met. He seemed capable of surviving anywhere, yet he carried no arrogance, no cruelty. There was a softness in him that she could not understand. Slowly, almost without realizing it, Lyra began to trust him. She approached him one evening, clutching a small packet of food she had saved. Elias smiled when he saw her, and without a word he accepted the food, nodding in gratitude. It was a small moment, but it meant something. It meant that she could belong somewhere. Elias taught Lyra to do small tasks on the ship. She learned to clean, to organize supplies, and eventually to operate basic machinery. Each lesson was a revelation. She had never been taught anything. The Xylan had assumed she was incapable of learning, that she had no value. But under the human's guidance, she discovered skills she had never imagined she possessed. She could think, plan, and act. She could contribute. She could matter. One day, as the ship prepared to leave the station, the Xylan guards discovered her absence. They demanded her return, claiming ownership over her life as if she were property. Elias stood firm, his voice calm but firm. "She is not your property. She is her own being, and I will not hand her back to a system that treats her as nothing." The guards sneered, but they knew better than to challenge a human in his own ship. Elias' reputation had begun to spread in the sector, whispered among traders and smugglers alike. Humans were clever, resourceful, and persistent. They were not to be underestimated. As the ship lifted off from the station, Lyra looked down at the shrinking lights of her old life. Fear and excitement warred within her. She was leaving behind everything she had ever known, everything that had defined her survival. But in its place, there was possibility. For the first time, she felt a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could be more than nothing. And as the stars stretched out before them, vast and infinite, she realized that the universe was bigger than she had ever imagined, and she was no longer invisible. During the first few weeks of their journey, Elias introduced Lyra to the ways of human life. He explained how humans traveled, how they made decisions, and how they survived in hostile environments. Lyra listened carefully, absorbing every word. She learned about human ingenuity, their ability to adapt, and their willingness to protect those they cared about. It was a world entirely different from the harsh, rigid society of the Xylan, and Lyra found herself inspired. The human strength was not in brute force or technology alone. It was in their creativity, their empathy, and their courage. These were qualities that she could emulate, qualities that could help her shape her own destiny. One day, while the ship was traveling through a minor asteroid field, Lyra spotted a small pod drifting nearby. Without hesitation, she alerted Elias. He was impressed by her observation and quick thinking. Together, they managed to retrieve the pod, discovering a wounded alien inside. Lyra tended to the creature, using the skills she had learned. Her compassion and ingenuity saved its life. In that moment, she realized that she was no longer powerless. She could make a difference. She could save lives. She could matter. As the days passed, Lyra and Elias encountered traders, smugglers, and travelers from countless star systems. Some were wary of humans, some curious, and some outright hostile. Yet with every encounter, Lyra's confidence grew. She learned to navigate difficult conversations, to assess threats, and to act decisively. She began to understand that the universe was not a place where one had to accept being treated as nothing. With the right ally, with courage and intelligence, even the most neglected could rise. The bond between Lyra and Elias deepened. She no longer feared human kindness, and he no longer saw her as weak. Together, they were a team, a combination of human ingenuity and alien adaptability. And though the universe was vast and dangerous, filled with prejudice and cruelty, they were ready to face it together. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly alive. In the quiet of the ship's cabin, as stars streaked past in the distance, Lyra reflected on everything she had endured. Hunger, neglect, and abandonment had once defined her life. But those experiences had also taught her resilience, patience, and the ability to read the world around her. With Elias' guidance, those lessons transformed into strength. She realized that being treated as nothing had not broken her. It had prepared her to rise. The universe had underestimated her, as it had underestimated humans. But together, they would prove that even the smallest, weakest, and most neglected could change the course of destiny. And as the ship sailed through the endless night, carrying its unusual pair toward unknown adventures, Lyra finally understood the meaning of hope, courage, and belonging. The ship hummed steadily as it glided through the starry expanse, leaving the dim, crumbling lights of Station K-47 far behind. Lyra moved through the corridors with newfound confidence, her steps light yet careful. She had survived hunger, cruelty, and neglect, and now she thrived in a world where her existence mattered. Elias watched her often, noticing her growth, the way she observed everything with sharp attention, how her small frame moved with surprising strength. He had always believed in giving the underestimated a chance, and Lyra was living proof that patience and trust could reveal hidden potential. Their journey took them through a cluster of trade systems, where travelers and merchants relied on the protection of human traders for safe passage. Lyra learned quickly, mastering tasks aboard the ship, assisting in piloting through asteroid belts and organizing supplies with precision. Her hands, once frail and trembling from hunger, now moved with skill and confidence. Yet the universe was not without danger, and the shadows of prejudice and hostility lingered everywhere they went. One evening, as they approached a bustling trade hub on the edge of a contested system, the ship's sensors picked up unusual activity. A fleet of Xylan raiders was sweeping through nearby sectors, attacking transport ships and leaving destruction in their wake. Elias studied the holographic map projected in the cabin, his brow furrowed. "They've become bolder," he muttered. "If they reach this hub, hundreds of innocent lives will be at risk. We have to act. But we have to be clever. The Xylan don't expect humans to fight smart, they expect us to be reckless. That's our advantage." Elias listened, impressed. Her insight into her own species' behavior was invaluable. "You see things I might never notice," he said quietly. "Your perspective is as important as my experience." Laser fire streaked through space, igniting explosions among the smaller, unprotected ships. Elias maneuvered their vessel with practiced skill, weaving between debris and enemy fire. Lyra operated the ship's targeting systems, guiding precision shots to disable the raiders' engines rather than destroy them outright. Her hands moved confidently over the controls, her mind sharp and unyielding. Every calculation, every adjustment was crucial. The Xylan were ruthless and skilled, but they had underestimated humans and the combination of human strategy and alien insight. Lyra anticipated their movements, predicting attacks before they happened. Elias executed evasive maneuvers, striking where the enemy least expected. The raiders grew frustrated, unable to pin down the small, agile ship. Lyra's voice called out over the comms, steady and confident, guiding Elias through dangerous maneuvers that saved dozens of transport ships from destruction. As the battle intensified, one of the larger raiders attempted to ram their vessel, its massive hull closing in fast. Lyra noticed a weak point in the ship's structure, a flaw in its maneuvering thrusters. "Elias, aim for the left thruster." "If we hit it, they can't follow us," she shouted. Elias adjusted the targeting systems and fired a calculated shot. The thruster exploded in a blaze of light, sending the raider spiraling uncontrollably into the asteroid field. Lyra's pulse raced, but she did not falter. Each successful maneuver strengthened her confidence, proving that she was capable of more than anyone, even herself, had imagined. The smaller raiders, seeing their larger companion disabled, began to retreat. Lyra and Elias pursued, but only enough to ensure the raiders would not regroup immediately. They could not risk a full engagement. The hub still needed protection. As the danger receded, Lyra exhaled, her hands trembling slightly from adrenaline. Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did well, more than well. You saved lives today." For the first time, Lyra felt pride, not just relief, but pride in her abilities and in her contribution. She had once been treated as nothing, left to starve and ignored. Now she had made a difference. When they docked at the trade hub, word of their actions had already begun to spread. Traders and merchants whispered about the strange, clever human and the small alien who had outsmarted the raiders. Some Xylan looked on with disbelief, unable to comprehend that someone they considered weak and insignificant could achieve such feats. Lyra felt a strange mix of fear and satisfaction. The world she had known, the world that had deemed her worthless, was beginning to see her in a different light, not because she demanded it, but because her actions proved her worth. Over the next few days, Lyra and Elias assisted in repairs, organized defenses, and trained local volunteers in basic tactics for protection. Lyra's confidence grew with each passing day. She learned to anticipate danger, to plan strategies, and to think several steps ahead. The humans' approach to problem-solving fascinated her. Their ability to combine logic with intuition, their willingness to adapt, and their courage to act even in the face of overwhelming odds. Lyra realized that this was what set humans apart. They were underestimated, yet capable of extraordinary feats when they applied their minds and hearts together. During a quiet moment, Elias showed Lyra the ship's library, a small collection of human knowledge, manuals, and stories. He encouraged her to read, to learn about human history, and to explore ideas beyond survival. Lyra absorbed the information eagerly, fascinated by tales of human resilience, invention, and compassion. She learned about people who had risen from nothing, who had faced overwhelming odds, and who had succeeded because they refused to give up. The stories resonated deeply, inspiring her to believe that she, too, could rise above her past. One evening, while reviewing the hub's sensor logs, Lyra noticed unusual activity near a neighboring system. Another group of raiders was planning an attack, targeting the station's most vulnerable supply routes. Lyra alerted Elias immediately, her mind already racing with strategies. He listened carefully, nodding at her observations. "You've learned well," he said. "Your instincts are sharp. Together, we can prevent this before it starts." When the raiders arrived, they found themselves ensnared in the trap. Their ships were immobilized, their formations disrupted, and their attacks anticipated at every turn. The combination of Lyra's knowledge and human strategy proved irresistible. By the time the skirmish ended, the raiders had suffered significant losses, retreating to regroup far from the hub. The locals, many of whom had doubted the humans and their small companion, now regarded them with respect. Traders, guards, and even some Xylan whispered about the cleverness and bravery of the duo. Lyra felt a new sense of belonging, no longer invisible or dismissed. She had once been left to starve, treated as nothing, yet now her actions had saved countless lives. It was a lesson she would never forget. Strength was not defined by size or reputation, but by courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. In the days that followed, Lyra continued to hone her skills, learning advanced piloting, tactical planning, and leadership. She taught what she had learned to others, guiding volunteers and station residents in defensive strategies. Her confidence grew alongside her abilities, and she began to see herself not as a victim of neglect, but as a force capable of shaping events around her. Every challenge she faced, every problem she solved, reinforced the truth she had slowly discovered. Being treated as nothing did not define her. Her actions did. Elias watched her growth with quiet pride. He had always known that humans and those underestimated could achieve greatness, but seeing it firsthand was inspiring. Lyra had endured more than most beings could imagine, yet she had adapted, learned, and risen above her circumstances. Her resilience was a testament not only to her own spirit, but to the potential that existed in every individual, no matter how dismissed by society. One evening, as they prepared for another journey, Lyra looked out at the stars, reflecting on how far she had come. The universe was vast and dangerous, filled with species who underestimated humans and the weak alike. Yet she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With Elias at her side, she knew that intelligence, courage, and compassion could overcome even the greatest odds. She had been treated as nothing, left to starve and ignored, but those experiences had forged her into someone capable of extraordinary things. As the ship lifted off from the hub, leaving behind the small stations and bustling markets, Lyra realized that her life had changed forever. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer powerless. She was a being of potential, of skill, and of courage. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, she understood the lesson that would guide her forever. No one, not even the smallest or most neglected, is truly nothing when they are given the chance to rise. The universe was watching, and now it would learn to respect those who had once been dismissed. Lyra's journey was far from over, but for the first time she felt confident in her place within it. She was no longer the girl left to starve. She was a partner, a warrior, and a symbol of resilience. And together with Elias, she would continue to prove that humanity, underestimated and dismissed, could change the course of the stars. The ship sailed through the quiet darkness of deep space, its engines humming a steady, reassuring rhythm. Lyra stood at the observation window, gazing at the endless stars stretching in every direction. She had come a long way from the fragile, neglected girl left to starve on Station K-47. Every battle, every small victory, had shaped her into someone stronger, smarter, and more capable. She was no longer invisible. She had learned that courage and intelligence could transform even the weakest into someone the universe could not ignore. Elias entered the observation deck quietly, standing behind her. "You're thinking too much," he said softly, a teasing edge in his voice. Lyra turned, offering a small smile. "I'm not thinking too much," she replied. "I'm planning." Her eyes sparkled with determination. "The Xylan raiders will come back. We've slowed them, but we haven't stopped them." Elias nodded, his expression serious now. He had learned long ago to trust her instincts. They were sharp and unyielding. Together, they had become more than a ship captain and a rescued girl. They were a team, each amplifying the other's strengths. Reports had reached them through trade channels that the raiders were gathering a fleet far larger than before. The hub they had protected was at risk again, and many neighboring stations would likely be attacked as well. It was not just a fight for survival, it was a battle for the recognition of humanity's cleverness and resilience in the galaxy. Elias and Lyra knew that failure was not an option. The stakes were too high. Lyra studied the maps, plotting possible strategies. She suggested using the natural terrain of asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies to their advantage. If we create a false route, they'll follow the decoy fleet, and we can strike from unexpected directions, she explained. Elias nodded, impressed by her insight. Your understanding of Xylan tactics is remarkable. You're thinking like a strategist now, not a scared girl. Lyra's cheeks flushed at the compliment, but she felt a surge of pride. She had survived neglect and hunger, and now she was shaping the fate of many. The transformation was exhilarating. Over the next few days, they rallied allies from nearby systems, traders, independent pilots, and even some Xylan who had grown wary of the raiders' increasing brutality. Lyra coordinated their preparations, using her knowledge of Xylan behavior to anticipate weaknesses. She trained volunteers in defensive maneuvers and tactical thinking, turning ordinary individuals into a cohesive, effective force. Each session reinforced her belief that intelligence, courage, and teamwork were more powerful than raw strength alone. When the raider fleet finally appeared on the edge of the sector, they were far larger than expected. Lyra's pulse quickened, but her hands remained steady on the controls. Elias looked at her, silently conveying trust and confidence. Together, they moved the fleet into position, creating a network of traps and decoys that would draw the raiders into vulnerable positions. The human-led force was small, but every element was precisely calculated. Lyra's attention to detail and quick thinking ensured that each move was effective. As the battle began, laser fire lit up the void, cutting through darkness like jagged ribbons of light. The raiders were ruthless, firing indiscriminately at transports and civilian vessels. Lyra's voice rang out over the comms, guiding allies through complex maneuvers, warning of approaching threats, and coordinating counterattacks. Elias piloted their ship with precision, following her instructions with near-perfect execution. The synergy between them was unmatched. What the raiders had assumed would be an easy victory became a calculated nightmare. One of the raiders attempted a flanking maneuver, aiming to break through the human defenses and target the main transport convoy. Lyra quickly analyzed the movement, calculating the trajectory and speed. Elias, angle the ship to starboard. I'll take control of the targeting systems. Focus fire on the lead ship's engines. If we disable it, the others will hesitate. Elias executed the plan flawlessly. Lyra's calculations were precise. The raider's engines exploded, sending it spinning into an asteroid field. Panic rippled through the enemy ranks as their formation broke apart. Lyra felt a thrill, not from destruction, but from the effectiveness of clever strategy over brute force. The battle raged for hours, each side maneuvering with relentless determination. Lyra's confidence continued to grow as she guided the fleet, anticipating enemy tactics and countering them before they could take effect. She had once been told she was worthless, incapable of contributing. Now she was the guiding mind behind a critical defensive operation, proving the universe wrong with every successful move. Her small frame and sharp mind became symbols of the underestimated's potential. During a brief lull, Elias approached her again. "You've changed everything," he said quietly. "You've saved more lives than you know, and you've taught humans and Xylan alike a lesson they won't forget." Lyra's eyes reflected a mixture of pride and disbelief. She had never imagined that her life, once dismissed, could have such an impact. "We did this together," she replied, her voice steady. "I wouldn't have been able to do it without you." Lyra identified the raiders' command ship, the vessel coordinating attacks and issuing orders. She realized that disabling it would cripple the entire fleet. "Elias, that ship is their command center. If we take it out, the rest will be forced to retreat or surrender." Elias nodded, understanding the significance. Together, they devised a risky maneuver to approach the command ship while avoiding heavy fire. Lyra calculated every angle, every possible trajectory, ensuring the plan had a chance to succeed. The tension was palpable, but neither of them wavered. As they closed in, enemy fire rained down, testing their resolve. Lyra's hands moved with precision over the controls, adjusting shields, firing calculated bursts, and directing allies to cover vulnerable points. She remained calm, her mind focused entirely on the objective. Elias piloted with skill, trusting her guidance implicitly. When they reached striking distance, Lyra coordinated a series of targeted shots, exploiting weaknesses in the command ship's structure. Explosions rocked the vessel and chaos erupted among the raider fleet. One by one, their ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Victory was within reach. When the battle ended, the surviving raiders fled the system, their morale shattered. The human-led fleet had triumphed, not through superior numbers, but through intelligence, strategy, and teamwork. Lyra's heart raced with exhilaration. She had faced the forces that had once considered her insignificant and emerged victorious. Her transformation was complete, from neglected and starving to a capable, respected strategist whose actions had changed the course of a conflict. The news of their victory spread quickly through the sector. Traders, smugglers, and even some Xylan officials spoke in hushed tones about the human and the small alien girl who had outsmarted an entire fleet. Lyra was no longer the girl left to starve. She had become a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and courage. Her story inspired others who had been overlooked or underestimated, showing them that their potential was not defined by society's expectations. In the aftermath, Lyra and Elias worked to rebuild the stations and aid survivors. Lyra took a leading role, organizing defenses, training volunteers, and offering guidance. Her knowledge and skills became invaluable, and she earned the respect of many who had doubted her before. Every life she helped save, every problem she solved, reinforced the truth she had learned. Being treated as nothing did not define her. Her actions and determination did. As they prepared for another journey, Lyra reflected on how far she had come. The girl who had once hidden in shadows, scavenging for scraps, now stood at the forefront of a critical operation, her mind sharp, her skills honed, and her confidence unwavering. She had faced fear, danger, and prejudice, and emerged stronger for it. Her journey had proven that even the smallest, most overlooked beings could achieve greatness when given a chance and guided by courage and intelligence. Elias looked at her, a mixture of pride and admiration in his eyes. "You've grown beyond what anyone could have imagined," he said. "The universe may have underestimated you, but you've shown them what it means to be strong, clever, and determined." Lyra smiled, feeling a deep sense of belonging and purpose. She had once been nothing, but now she was part of something greater, a force capable of shaping events, saving lives, and inspiring hope across the stars. The universe was vast and filled with challenges, but Lyra no longer feared them. She had learned that intelligence, courage, and compassion were more powerful than strength or reputation alone. With Elias at her side, she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. She understood that being underestimated could be a hidden advantage, that those who dismissed others often revealed their own weaknesses. Humanity's strength lay not only in technology or numbers, but in adaptability, ingenuity, and moral courage. Lyra had learned this lesson firsthand. As the ship sailed toward new adventures, Lyra felt a sense of calm determination. She knew the galaxy would continue to test her, but she was ready. No longer the girl left to starve, she had become a leader, a strategist, and a symbol of hope. Her journey was far from over, but she was prepared for every challenge. The universe had underestimated her, and humanity, but now they would have to respect the consequences. In the end, Lyra's transformation was complete. She had risen from neglect and starvation to influence, strength, and purpose. Her story was a testament to the power of perseverance, intelligence, and courage. She had learned that being treated as nothing did not define a life. It was the choices, actions, and determination that shaped destiny. With Elias at her side, she would continue to prove that even in the vast, indifferent universe, those who dared to rise could achieve greatness beyond measure. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the triumph of the underestimated. Lyra, once overlooked and dismissed, now stood as a beacon of resilience and capability. She had been treated as nothing, left to starve, but through trust, determination, and courage, she had become someone extraordinary. Humanity, underestimated for centuries, had found a worthy representative in the girl who refused to be invisible. And as the ship moved forward, carrying them into unknown realms, Lyra felt the exhilarating certainty that she, and humans like Elias, could change the universe one daring act at a time.